Hey everybody, it's AA1. We're on location tonight at the Mudhole Advanced Rod Building Seminar. I'm here with legendary rod builder Mark Crouse, and he's going to tell us a little bit about AB1 Guides. As you know, Fuji or Anglers Resource became the North American distributor back at ICAST this year in July, and Mark here was the first one to ever bring these guides into the United States. He's an expert on them, and tonight I'd like to ask him some few questions and just see if we can figure out a little bit more about these guides. So, Mark, what can you tell me about these guides that are very unique to the industry and different than anything else?
Okay, it's a simple fact. It's called a floating guide. Why is it a floating guide? Because your feet on each side are not solid in, they're movable. When I bend the rod, the foot moves out. If I let it go, the foot moves back in. Because when the rod bends, the point from point A to point B, the distance gets greater. So now you got a solid guide on there. It hinders the rod of correctly flexing because it's stopped right here.
And when the guide itself doesn't flex and it hinders that rod, does that interfere with the performance of the blank at all?
It takes power away from the blank because you're losing strength, okay. And it also cracks your finish in the feet.
Absolutely, okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So now the blank itself, does it stay round whenever it's under pressure? Or does
A blank, when it's under pressure, actually deshapes, it turns oval. If this is solid, it cannot deshape in between because it's being held in position. This one is not being held in position. Your upper part where your ball bearing and everything is actually loose on here. It's not loose enough that it's going to fall off. Let's go a little bit back that he sees a lower guy. Hold it tight.
Okay.
And I'm going to bend the upper section of the rod. And you can see how the guide feet move in and out. So they stretch. So this can bend totally freely without any hindrance of a guide. It's moving freely. It gives your rod more strength. It gives your rod also more bounce. Your rod is not going to dead drop to one spot and not bounce anymore, and you're holding the fish nut with your arms instead of with the rod. The rod can continue to bounce because nothing is stopping it.
Absolutely. So that's going to give you the better ability and more performance when you're fighting fish, as well as prevent any cracking or issues in your finish themselves. And kind of what he was talking about with these guide feet here, just to show you one without being wrapped on. The feet themselves, if you can see, will actually flex and move, as to where on any other guide out there, they're completely solid. So does that play a role when you're wrapping the guide on the blank? How does that
yes,
work?
it's good that you say this part here. So when you see the feet come in and out, when you wrap the guide, you want the feet in. So when the rod bends, that they can move out. Wrapping the guide, both feet in. Very important. Wrap it as you wrap your usual guide. It's going to be very solid when it's in this shape. But when the rod bends, the distance from A to B extends, the guides extend out.
You can kind of see how it actually arches and forms with the blank itself if you look at the shape of it there. Something else you were telling me earlier that I found quite interesting was, you know, a lot of times when you wrap something like this and you are sitting so close to the blank, it's very easy for epoxy to kind of get in and touch the frame itself, which can kind of lock it in place. What was the trick that you said earlier that was
okay? We all underwrap our roller guides. We underwrap the whole surface. On this guide, I recommend only underwrap the spots where the feet are going to sit, because that will elevate now the guide a little bit up, and you have a little bit more space here with your brush. It is not hard to finish it, but let's say you're not a pro yet, you're a rookie, finish them very slowly. Push your brush very carefully in there that you get no finish into the hinged part. Because if you get finish in there, it's stuck. It will break loose, but you don't want to go to that. You want it to be loose from the get-go.
Right.
So what I would do with these guides, like with any other guide, if I fish the salt, I wash it out. If you have any problems with your guides, that maybe there's sand in it, or a little bit too much salt would already corrode it and you can't get it out, all these guides can be taken apart. When you buy your set, you can also get a little tool set from AB1 to take the guide apart. And there's also some grease you can use, but basically you can use any real grease you can find Do not use a very stiff grease. You want to use regular grease.
That way, if you use a stiffer grease, that means
When
the
it gets
salt
cold,
and
it's
stuff,
really stiff.
and it'll actually build up in there. How have your experiences been with these things?
My experience has been great with them. I've been using them now since 2017. I had not had one complaint ever. Everybody loves them. Everybody loves the performance. Some of the rods with these guides are on TV. I will not name any shows, but if you look a little closer, you will see it.
Okay.
And the simple fact is because you're bringing a fish more securely in. Your rod is going to work the way the rod was meant to work. It's going to have the strength it was meant to have. And your line is not going to burn up in the guides. No problems. You're fighting a big fish, you lose the big fish, you're very pissed off. Your hobby did the opposite to you what it was supposed to do.
Absolutely.
Because you're getting off the boat now, you're fired up from hell.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah,
if you
we all
haven't been there, then well, you're doing something wrong, and we'll have that conversation later. So you've never had one fail on you personally?
Not one yet.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. That's wonderful news. We love to hear that.
Once in a while, something I realize, but it's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
The company who assembles them didn't tighten them enough up. That's why we sent a little Allen wrench with it. First of all, if you want to work on your guide, and second of all, if that occurs, that it wasn't totally tightened. But I saw that with every company. I checked every brand out there. They all have the same problem. Once in a while, one of the bolts is not tightened.
Absolutely.
Just
So
tighten it yourself.
with that, that's a very good point. You noticed earlier we were moving it pretty freely. You will want to tighten those up enough. You don't want it to be completely moving all over the place, but you still want it to have the flex and the move there. So that's something, again, to check before you attach them to your rod or before you wrap them on.
But like I said, I checked every big name brand because somebody complained to us about it, and I says, okay, let me check into that. I bought every big brand on the planet there is. They all had that problem once in a while, and it's not a big deal. You tighten it up, you're done.
Well, Mark, thank you so much. I greatly
you.
appreciate all your time. You guys heard it here from the voice of the legend, Mark Crouse. We got everything here to go. If you have any questions, call me or email me, aloe@anglersresource.net, or the office number is 251-943-4491. We'd be happy to help you.